you describe private client law?
Very varied. Very varied. So you get a mix of absolutely everything. So with wills and trusts, there's a lot of drafting. With lasting powers of attorney and probate, there's a lot of process. Probate, a lot of investigating going on with people's estates, a lot of client meetings. So you get that client contact. With tax planning and estate accounts, you get numbers. So you get kind of everything involved in it. I think that's why I like it. No day is the same.
Welcome to the Legal Navigator Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca from Law Training Centre. Today we are joined by an incredible guest speaker, Alexandra Gordon, an award-winning lawyer and managing partner at Tassells Solicitors. With extensive experience in private client law, including probate, wills and estate planning, Alexandra has really made a significant impact in the field. She's also served as the president of the Kent Law Society, becoming their 10th female president and the youngest in their over 200-year history. Alexandra will also share more about her journey today, how she's transformed her career, and offer invaluable tips on starting and succeeding in the private client and probate sector. Could you start by just sharing with our listeners today just a bit more about your background and what made you decide to pursue a career in private client?
So it was actually accidental. I qualified into litigation. I really enjoyed contentious probate when I was doing litigation work, and I enjoyed private client work. So I thought, I'll qualify into contentious probate because I get the love of both topics. But when I qualified, it was around when the recession hit. And so very quickly, a decision needed to be made because litigation was not the area to be in. In my head, I thought, if I go into private client, I can learn everything I need to know. And then eventually I can cross back into litigation. But we are now 14 years later. And I developed a love of tax, very oddly. And so I've just stuck with private client and not looked back.
Wonderful. So for those who are listening and they're just like not familiar with private client at all, how would you describe private client law?
Very varied. Very varied. So you get a mix of absolutely everything. So with wills and trusts, there's a lot of drafting. With lasting powers of attorney and probate, there's a lot of process. Probate, a lot of investigating going on with people's estates, a lot of client meetings. So you get that client contact. With tax planning and estate accounts, you get numbers. So you get kind of everything involved in it. I think that's why I like it. No day is the same. And even if you did a full day of wills, even if the wills were kind of exactly the same will, the client's circumstances would be completely different. So it's not boring. It's very varied and interesting.
That's good. So why do you think private client law is an important part of the legal profession?
I suppose all lawyers, well, most lawyers go into law to help people. And in this area, you are helping people, normally like with probate work, at a time when they are grieving. So it's a really important time to be able to alleviate that burden off people with the paperwork side of things, and because it can be complex. And especially if you're grieving, you can't necessarily deal with paperwork on top of that. So it's quite a nice feeling to be able to just literally take, sometimes carrier bags full of papers off people and make it make sense quite quickly. And because they can't think when they're in that phase. So helping people, and also I suppose making it clear the importance of having a will. We still see really horrible stories where people haven't made a will and not therefore provided for cohabitee partners. So educating people as well. So it's a nice area, and we get nice clients, and people are always really grateful for us helping. So I like it because of that.
That's wonderful. So you're also serving as the head of the private client department as well as managing partner. Could you share us? I don't know how you do it, but if you could just share more, just a bit about your current role and just what your day-to-day sort of responsibilities involve.
I'd say varied again. So with my managing partner role with the CEO, we are in charge of running the firm. I stay away from HR issues as much as I can. That's not for me. But in terms of like monies and planning for the future, recruitment, I get heavily involved in that side of things. With head of private client, I supervise 8 people. So there's always at least 1 or 2 meetings a day where I'm supervising in person, but I always check pretty much everything that leaves the buildings, emails or post checking. Plus I have a full caseload. So there's always a few client meetings in the mix. Actually, today is my first day without a client meeting in a very long time. It's very strange. So that's really nice. And I always take a paralegal with me whenever I go to a meeting. That's nice. So after the meeting, you can explain to them and then they help with the works. A lot of supervision, a lot of teaching, a lot of client contact, too many emails. I don't like emails. There's so many. Yeah, but it's very varied. Every day is varied, and it is quite nice. I've got a nice balance at the moment, I feel, touching wood, that it's not too stressful.
Fingers crossed indeed.
Yeah.
Let's just go back just a little bit, just about your early career and your education. Assuming you've done the traditional pathway, the LPC and becoming a solicitor. But if you could just talk more, just to give us an idea about how your early career and education helped you prepare for the complexities and the challenges of private client law.
So funnily enough, at university, the module most, or when I did it, the module most closest to private client was equity and trusts. And I absolutely hated it.
Likewise.
Yeah. So I found that very strange to that now be in this area of law. But I suppose the LPC, because it's practical, it gives you more of an idea as to what the areas of law are about. When I did the LPC, it was only a multiple choice questionnaire for wills. So it wasn't until I got into practice that I realised I liked it. I think what is key for private client is being a people person, because you are surrounded by people all day long, and they're relying on you for things, and they're relying on you to be calm and happy whilst their world is potentially falling apart. So you have to be very good at being sympathetic, and just trying to help people as much as you can. And that is quite tiring, being around people all day. Also, being around people helps get work in. So as private client lawyers, we tend to do a lot of networking. So we spend a lot of time with accountants, financial advisors, because it's their clients who tend to need our services. You have to be switched on and happy quite a lot of time, which can be quite exhausting sometimes. Just trying to think, being part of teams. So I play a lot of sport, so I'm quite sociable, but that does really help, because in the team that I'm in, I have to supervise a lot of people, and actually mood and morale does depend on everyone's mood in the team. So if you can keep everyone upbeat, then everyone is happy, more connected with each other and willing to help each other. And so it is very teamy in private client. We all help each other out on files. It's not kind of silo, this is my work, that's your work. Everyone seems to get involved with everyone. And I suppose being organised, studying always prepares you for being organised. And with private client, it's very different to some areas of law in that you could deal with, 20, 30 matters in a day, because with some things you'll get a letter in and it's a letter out, then you may have an hour client meeting, then you're drafting a different client's will. You can deal with so many different clients. So it's kind of learning how to multitask and keep all those balls kind of juggling in the air, and plate spinning without dropping anything.
Great. So what would you say is the best way to get started in private?
I think it's trying to get around people in the profession, so be around them. So Kent Law Society is always a good one, because they always put on events for students, but also it's sometimes as simple as like dropping a LinkedIn message or an email to someone. Like if someone drops me an email, I will try if we have something available, I'll try and meet with them. If we don't, I will always try and offer some kind of assistance. But with private client work, it's trying to get some work experience, which I know is impossible sometimes, but the people who tend to get the work experience are the ones who will email you and not annoy you, but you know what I mean? They will kind of hold you to it. You said you might have something, have you got something? And it's those people that you know are really keen and they want to have a career in that, and you want those kind of people. We have a lot of paralegals. We have 4 at the moment. So if we have availability and we like someone, then we will always offer something. And it comes down to really personality. You can teach someone any kind of law, but with private client law, they've got to have the personality where you could leave them in a meeting room with a client and they'd be able to hold a conversation. They wouldn't sit there in silence. Yeah, and my advice would be just to get around people, lawyers, and develop those kind of soft skills of being able to just talk to people. And the best lawyers we have and paralegals are ones who've had customer service jobs. Definitely being able to answer the phone, that being a main part of their job. Or one of our paralegals was a waiter around people all the time, so could hold conversations. So I think that's really important. There are loads of free webinars and things on the actual topics of private client that you can listen to and learn. But when we meet with paralegals, we're not expecting them to know anything. We're expecting to teach them. So it's more about the soft skills you can't teach, I suppose, that we'd be looking for.
It's really good. And I really like the point that you've mentioned as well about just taking that initial step to send a message on LinkedIn or an email. But I wanted to just get from you, what would make you find that candidate attractive? Because obviously there has to be something that draws you into them before you obviously find out their personality. So whether you've had a look on their LinkedIn page and they've put like really good content on there, just the CV I know you touched on customer service skills, but is there something that you're looking for in particular that will make a candidate stand out when they do approach you?
I might be a bit different to others, so I don't really look at grades at all, because if someone's studying or they're doing a law degree, or they're involved in law in some way, you're assuming that there is that level that they're able to complete their degree or whatnot. So I don't tend to look at grades. It is more the external things they're doing. I do tend to really look for something a bit extra. So a job, if people are working while studying, that type of job they're doing, customer service is a big for private client, but also involved. We've got one paralegal who was involved in a society that was for juniors all the way up to kind of senior lawyers. So, but they chose to do that in their spare time to get involved. And it just shows a little bit more of a willingness to want to be involved. And especially with private client, because we tend to go to quite a lot of the networking events, if you're showing that you're keen to do that already, that's a big tick. But yeah, LinkedIn, I do look at people's LinkedIn, but I wouldn't expect, I mean, LinkedIn's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you get loads of likes for praising yourself about how great you are, and sometimes you put up something really important about your area and no one likes it. So I wouldn't look too much into someone's LinkedIn profile.
That's good to know. The average sort of person who would be looking for sort of experience or starting their job typically would be studying alongside him, just because the work experience requirement is needed to work in probate and, of course, to build on those skills. So what tips do you have for those students to help them like balance their studying, gaining work experience in the sector? How can they balance it all out, essentially?
You need some nice flexible employers, I think. I would say we're very flexible. We've got 3 paralegals studying, so 2 doing a master's for the SQE and 1 doing a master's separately. So we will work around their hours for that. We're very good in that our job is 9 to 5. You don't take anything home with you, and we do that for a reason, which we'll probably come on to later anyway. But they've got to be organised, obviously, because they've got deadlines, and that's, organisation is key, I feel, with law anyway. But if you've got deadlines for assignments or exams, plus you've got a job that is expecting you to turn up 9 to 5 and relying on you, they have client contact from day one. So they have clients emailing them and expecting responses. So it is all about organisation. With our paralegals, we always know when they've got assignments due, when they've got exams, and they'll say to us, I can't work that week because of this, or I'm going to need some extra leave this week, and we just work around them. We work with clients. There's always 2 of us on a client file anyway, normally, because if I'm on holiday or one of them's at uni, there's always someone around to be able to pick up the work. So we don't rely on them too heavily in that they can't take holiday. But yeah, we just try and work around their schedule, which most should do, because actually you get so much out of the ones we've got. Are so keen and so intelligent, and so they've just taken to it. They're incredible, and I don't know what we'd really do without them, because they do work, which I think is from our point of view, is trusting people to just get on with it. And one of our secretaries is about to start Silex, and I had a meeting the other day. I said to her, do you want to come? And she went, yep, that's fine. I said, oh, you're actually going to explain the documents to the client just before we walked in, and her face dropped. We went in and she was perfect, absolutely perfect. And clients don't mind. If you say to them, oh, this is so-and-so their training, do you mind if they talk you through the document? They're like, no, it's absolutely fine. That might be our area of law, though. Clients are nice and happy, and we're not dealing with anything I say we do deal with death, obviously, which is obviously the worst area. But when you deal with areas like maybe divorce, children, you probably can't do that as much, because tensions are fraught and
Of course.
what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need a nice flexible employer.
You mentioned that point as well, because I was just about to ask you, what do you think are some of the misconceptions about private client law? I mean, some people think it might be a bit too daunting because you deal with a lot of the death and aspect of things. But what do you think people should know about private client law?
Death is an interesting one, in that the majority of clients we see, they come to us for factual things, they aren't leaning on us for emotional support. Obviously, we're there for it, but normally we will say to them, you deal with the funeral and then you come to us. There's no real timelines, strict timelines, early doors in place that are needed. So by the time they come to us, we we deal with things factually if that's how they want it to be, or we can be more personalized. It really just depends on the client. But you'll find with a lot of people, the clients are very elderly and they're like, oh, it's a blessing because they were so poorly. The majority of the time, it's that. It's if you've got someone a lot younger or it's not expected, then it's horrible. And we try and kind of shield the youngsters away from that for a bit, because there's nothing worse than getting upset in a client meeting when they've lost someone, not you. But sometimes you get upset for them in the meeting. You can't hide it. But I suppose with private client, it always makes me laugh. Everyone always says how boring it is. That's all I ever hear. It's really boring and it's really easy. It's not boring at all because it's so varied. You can't get bored. I mean, if you were just drafting wills all day long every day, I can imagine that would become quite boring. But we have such a varied area that there's always something different going on. And also, it's definitely not easy. And some parts of it are more easier than others. There are form filling bits of the role, but you're dealing with tax advice, you're dealing with drafting, and it's not click a button, here's a draft will that a computer generates for you. We draft all of our wills from scratch. We have precedents that we obviously start with and then make them specific for each client. So it's definitely not boring. It's not easy. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. A lot of people say about it not being cool. I just think it's rude. But it's actually, I love this area of law because part of my job is to go out and meet people for lunches. We always used to get invited to Lords to watch the cricket. Like, that is part of my job because I'm networking, I'm making connections. So I think that's a great part of the job, to get out of the office and meet people and go to sporting events or whatnot. Yeah, I really like the area of law. Not my chosen in the area of law in the beginning, but actually I do think it's quite suited to me. But again, you can have days where you're out and about, bubbly, and then you can have a day when you're in the office, you don't want to see clients, you're just doing estate accounts on your own, not talking to anyone. So yeah, it's cool. Promise.
And so, as you just mentioned, it wasn't the area you started off with. You started in litigation. And what's more common is you would see people who start off in conveyancing, for example, and they dual qualify and do probate. So what advice would you give to someone who's moving into private client law from just another field in general?
I think probably conveyancing to probate is quite a good one because you've got process in both of them. So the process doesn't change in terms of the actual steps, but obviously the client's circumstances will change everything dramatically. I think just the confidence when you're interviewing about wanting to learn, willing to learn. With private client, we have STEP, which is an extra qualification you can undertake, which is invaluable. So if you've got people who are really keen to learn about the topic, they are going to be so valuable to you that, we'd snap people up if they said they came in and say, well, I'm doing conveyancing, but now I want to do private client. If they were keen to actually learn about STEP and do the STEP qualifications and learn about the topic, then we'd be so keen, especially with conveyancing as well. I think property is a great area and private client in that they do interlink with other areas of law. Yeah. So it does give you a strong foundation from a different angle in private client, which is really helpful. And I think actually anyone who does conveyancing and moves to another area, they've got so many skills because they are picking up the phone constantly. They are under pressure. If they can do that, then they can do anything, I think. Yeah. I think conveyancing is one of those areas of law that I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be able to multitask like that.
Yeah. Good point. It's very much of a transferable skill and a solid foundation. That's why you do have other qualifications like the Council of Licensed Conveyancers, which give probate people who are looking to do probate exemptions as well if they wanted to cross over.
That's really good.
And do that area of law as well. But what strategies would you recommend for building a successful and fulfilling career in private client law?
Personality, I think, is key. And we've got a real lovely mix of people in the office. We've got some big personalities, we've got some quieter personalities, but they all mix really nicely. And being a team player, we're very good here. We share fees, we share clients. You don't want, or I don't. I've worked in places where people have got big egos and steal fees, and it might get you somewhere in the short term, but it won't get you very far in the long term. Don't be a yes person, which sounds a bit odd, but if you are too busy, we really encourage here, if you're too busy, you say you're too busy and you don't take on work, because all it's going to do is give a bad service to the client and you're going to be overrun as well. So we're really, really strong on being honest, I suppose, being honest about your capacity levels and what you think you can do well. We can all take on too much work and give a rubbish service, but that's not what we're here for. So it's better to actually take on less and do it properly. Yeah. And then we've already covered it, a willingness to learn. That's what is very key, because that will push you above others. Sadly, love qualifications. So I've done like everyone I could possibly do, but it really helps on a CV. I went for a job interview and they were only looking for a partner. and I wasn't ready in my eyes. I sent them my CV and I said, have you got any other jobs? And I got the role as a partner, salaried partner. But I have those qualifications which other people maybe don't have. And because of that, I have that knowledge that will set me apart from others. So I do think that is really key. Being adaptable, because you could be in the middle of something and then something urgent happens. I feel like the best private client lawyers, though, are the ones that I want to work with me here. I have got something about them, like a bit of personality. My favorite lawyer, she will go into a meeting, a probate meeting, and you will hear everyone in the room laughing. She has this way about her of making people feel calm, relaxed, and just helping them kind of through it, but with humor. And I just think if you've got something like that about you, clients love it, and they will refer you to everyone and anyone, and you develop that kind of reputation as being the kind of go-to person for that work.
That's really brilliant tips there. Thank you so much for that. But what inspired you to invest in your team's development by sponsoring employers to pursue legal qualifications like Silex you mentioned earlier?
So I trained a Silex qualified lawyer at my previous firm, and it's probably the first time I really understood there was a different route in properly. And I was just so surprised she just qualified, and her knowledge was incredible because she'd been working while studying. She had that on the job knowledge, which a trainee or a newly qualified solicitor would not have. Like when I qualified, I'd done private client for maybe 6 months and I was pretty useless. I knew a little bit, but I didn't know enough to see a client, whereas she knew so much. And she'd also worked as a secretary prior to that, which I also think is very key, because you get to see the different side of private client work. But I just thought, wow, that's incredible that she's this good, having worked and studied alongside it. So that was kind of the push that I needed to make me kind of look into it a bit more. And we had someone join who was really keen on SQE. We were like, that's fine, we'll support you through it, but have you looked at Silex? And she's looked at it and she signed up yesterday, day before. So, which is nice. So it's nice that it's appealing to people rather than must be a solicitor, must do the SQE. I suppose on the job training is easier while you're learning as well, because what you learn and what it's like in practice isn't quite the same. But if you're doing them at the same time, you can see the similarities. So I think it helps to be learning about things whilst you're doing it. So yeah, really big fan. And it means it's great for us because we get the benefit of them here whilst they're doing their exams rather than waiting for them for 2 years while they do their studies.
Great. So how would you say investing in your employees impacted your firm's ability to attract and retain talent?
We do tell everyone what we do on social media. And so we have had some contacts like local accountants who have pushed people they know towards us and said, oh, I think they'll put you through your studies. And with the University of Kent, our reputation is growing there. And so we've had students apply to us from there. I suppose if we're shouting about it, it shows that we want to support people through it. And I suppose then it becomes a bit more widely spread, and people have been quite good at pushing people towards us. We are tiny compared to all the other law firms. So if we can stand out in any way, that's great for us. So we do rely on other people almost seeing our social posts and going, oh, you must be doing really well because you put out a LinkedIn post and we're like, all those people.
Wonderful. So what would you say are the key benefits that you see in offering your employees the opportunities to grow through their careers through alternative qualification routes?
I think they become confident very quickly in the area of law and also seeing clients because they will be afforded client contact from day one, whether it's on the phone or coming to client meetings. They immediately see that side of it. Whereas if you are, so with me, I did my LPC and then did my training contract. I didn't see clients for the whole of my LPC, and then you're kind of trying to learn it all in one go. So I think that's really key. Just trying to think. I think they are better for us in that they will get to see clients sooner. And one of our paralegals, she just kind of took to it, and so she was ready to see clients after about 9 months. Not on everything, but simple things. But because she'd kind of been experiencing that from day one, she'd built up that confidence to be able to deal with clients. So I think that is key, especially with private client law, because it is all about meetings still. You still get a lot of areas of law where people don't see people, but we see people all day, every day. And we don't tend to do much via video call. So I can't see that changing.
Yeah. What factors do you actually consider when deciding which qualifications or training courses align with your team's goals or values?
I suppose it's how it will fit in with everyone else here as we're building, because we have got a few part-time people now. So that is now playing a role. Whereas before, I think we were just keen to get people from who have different backgrounds into it, because you do learn a lot through different ways of training.
So, if you had any particular goals for your growth and development of your team, would you say that having that flexibility makes like a really good impact and effect on your position?
Yeah, definitely. But also as well, I suppose it's good that you can then pay for them to go through the courses as well, which I think is key for some people.
Mhm.
Because I remember the LPC, how expensive it was when I did it very long time ago. So I dread to think like how expensive SQE and things are now. I think you're more likely to get an employer to pay for your qualifications if you are you're working and doing it on the jobs. I think it's definitely got a place, and I think that's what we are kind of pushed towards now. That's what we look for.
Yeah, really good. So, what advice would you give to other employers or training managers who are also considering sponsoring their teams for alternative routes over the traditional pathway?
I think I I think you don't I was so surprised with all the paralegals we've got, how confident they are, how keen they are, motivated, and how good they are with clients. I think as an employer you worry, don't you? You don't want to
Yeah.
let people see clients too early, but actually I've been like the example earlier with one of my young paralegals. They take to it so well, and actually you're almost missing out
Yeah.
if you don't. And they provide such a level of support, especially for private client. We don't, with some of our tasks, they're not really secretarial. A lot of it is real work that is being done by maybe support staff. So the ones we have are so good at what they do. They're so good at attention to detail and being efficient and wanting to please, and that actually they've been an absolute godsend. With one of our paralegals in the first year of being at Tassells, it's a funny place, Tassells, in that work flies in the door. We don't market, but because where we are, there are no other law firms. So work flies in the door. Without my paralegal kind of keeping me in check, I wouldn't have survived, I don't think. But she would turn around work very quickly and then prompt me and go, "Have you sent that out yet?" And I'd be like, "Oh God, no, I haven't." And so yeah, I just think actually there are probably most valuable members of staff because they are really keen, and they know, like, when you're in learning as well, I feel like you're like a sponge, aren't you? And so they are learning everything perfectly, and just yeah.
Oh, that's great. So being in such like a demanding industry where it's super busy, you've got a lot of work, you're also managing your own team. What would you say are your key strategies for managing a successful team?
Don't overload staff. I think we're really key on client care. I've worked at places before where that's not been the most important thing. And you almost have so much work that you never do it because you always kind of damage control with clients to
Yeah.
keep happy. So our key thing is that if you've got too much work, we take it off you. So you should have enough to be able to work 9 to 5. But in that time, if something urgent happens, you should have time to put down what you're doing. You shouldn't ever be that overloaded. So we have weekly meetings where we get run through everyone and say, what is your capacity? And some people will go, nothing till February, nothing for 2 weeks. I'm fine to take next week. And so we work on that basis. So everyone is really encouraged to be very honest. We always hire more staff. If we're busy, we hire more staff. We don't overload the staff we've got. Private clients are not a predictable area, but it's almost recession proof in that sadly people are always going to die, and the stats are still really awful. I think it's around 50-60% of adults who don't have wills. So there's enough work out there for all law firms. If we get overloaded with work, then we look for good staff. At the moment, we've got a lot of junior staffs because we've just had really lovely paralegals apply. But now we're looking at more senior. It's all about clients. And I think if you can keep clients happy, that means your staff aren't overloaded, which means they're happy. And yeah, if they've got time to make sure they're doing their studies as well, then you're winning, aren't you?
So I'm sure many would be curious, how do you balance it all, the bit like your client relationships with the operational demands of running your own team? What specifically do you do to make it all successful?
Clients always come first. Yeah. But that's the same as if I've got wills to check that come to me via email, that is priority over other things. I'm lucky in that I've got a CEO who will help with the operational side. So if I can't do it, it will fall to him to do. But I find the most stressful thing is emails. I can see clients all day long, no problem. I don't find that stressful. I'll always make sure I get the work done, but it's then balancing the emails. And I think there's clients assume that because they've emailed you, you should reply within 10 seconds sometimes. So it's at the end of the day, if anything, it is pushing me out of my 9 to 5. Because I do try and practice what I preach. I've been very good recently. I've been trying to work 9 to 5. But if anything pushes me out of that, it's emails because I have to deal with everyone else's emails. Sometimes I don't get a chance to finish mine. But don't get distracted. I'm terrible at getting distracted. I went on a course once and they said you should only look at your emails 2 times in the day. And at those points you reply to everything, because then actually you're focused on other things. I'm terrible. If I see an email coming, I'm like, must reply, and get rid of it, because then a full inbox fills me with absolute dread. Yeah, I don't know. At the moment, I think I'm just being lucky that everything is falling into place. It's having great support. I'm really lucky. We've got such great support here, and a mix of people who've been here 20, 30 years who know the firm inside out, with a mix of people who've been here under a year but are so enthusiastic and willing to learn and willing to help with things that, and as I say, everyone helps everyone. The other day I had a horrible day. It was back to back all day, and one of my lawyers came in and just took my drinks bottle and filled it up for me, and they were like, you must hydrate. And I was like, thank you. But like, I wouldn't expect anyone to get me a drink, but everyone kind of looks out for each other, so that does make it easier to balance all of the plates that are spinning.
That's really good. And I really feel you on the email aspect. Are there any other challenges that you faced in leadership? I'm
a very friendly person, and I will go into, when I hear everyone in the open plan kind of chatting and laughing, I'll run in and be like, oh, I want to talk too. And I have to remember that I'm the boss, and sometimes they don't want to talk to me. So I'm learning that I can be friends with these people, but I have to keep that distance with some things. So like no WhatsApp groups or going out drinking and things like that. And I think because we've worked in places which haven't been flexible, we are trying really hard to be as flexible as possible. But sometimes that can bite you in the bum. And it's very, very rare here, but if you give an inch, sometimes people take a mile. So I would try and treat people how I would like to be treated, but sometimes it doesn't always work. And I suppose it's learning that that's not a reflection of me, and it's not a reflection of flexibility. It's a reflection maybe of that person specifically. Flexibility is good, and we'll bend over backwards for people here. We will, and we're very flexible and discretionary with things like I see things like bereavement leave. Like I've had it before where you've got one day off. Well, that's not enough if it's a immediate family member. We will give whatever time fully paid off for that person if that's what they need. Like we can do that because that's the right thing to do for the person. So we'll never stop doing things like that. But yeah, maybe we need to be more bosses and not friends. I think that's where we're struggling at the moment.
So if there's just one key advice or the most important advice that you wish you knew before you started and became a leader, something that you can give to future leaders in private client law about managing their teams, just one key takeaway, what would you say that is?
Don't take things personally. Definitely not. Yeah, I think that's where I struggle, because I'm such a friendly person in that I want to be friends with everyone, but I have to remember that if someone has a problem with something, it's not a problem with me, it's a problem with, I don't know, something to do with work. I can't take that personally, and so I have to now sit back and I reflect and then answer, rather than it's not fair, right? Do you know what I mean? I'm quite an emotive person and a reactive person, so I'm trying to learn to sit back, and it's not personal. You're just running the business now, and so they don't hate you, they just don't like something about what the business is doing. So yeah, that'd probably be my key.
Now, for people who are starting their journey in private client law today, what would be your most important advice for them?
Be keen, show your personality. We do a few law fairs, and you always remember the people who come over and are chatty, and I'm not saying if you're shy it's wrong, but even when you're speaking, just to be confident and interested. It's very obvious when you tell someone what you do, especially because we're a tiny, tiny firm, and they kind of glaze over and you're like, oh, okay, I've lost you. There's a bigger firm over there if you want to talk to them. Be keen, show personality. I think personality is so key, especially with private client. Really research firms. We had one paralegal who came in for an interview. She knew about where I was before and where one of my colleagues who'd come with me was before. She knew I was president of the Kent Law Society. And obviously it's a nice ego boost, isn't it, when people know who you are? But it was like, oh, you've actually done your research, you know, kind of about us and what we're trying to do here. And I thought, actually, that really does set you apart from other people, because it's not just a job for you. You've really researched and you've decided actually this firm is a firm that you think would be good for you. She liked the fact that we all had done all these extra qualifications. She was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And you sound like you'll do it here because that's what you've done. So research and stuff. So you can always tell when you get a CV that's been sent around everyone. I mean, I did it. You just do a job lot, don't you? This off you go kind of thing. So you can always tell when someone's really put the effort in. And if people put the effort in with me, I will always put the effort in back. Even if we have no jobs, I will go for a coffee with them or try and put them onto a friend who works in another law firm and help, because I remember how rubbish it was trying to, if you don't have any contacts in the legal profession, it's really hard to get contacts in the legal profession, and I didn't have any at all. So I literally went for any work experience I could get, anywhere and everything I would do, just to get something on my CV, and also to show me what I did like and I didn't like. Did some work experience in London at a massive corporate firm and absolutely hated photocopying for a week straight. And so I thought, you know what, that's not for me. So yeah, I know it's hard to get work experience, but there are still quite a few firms out there who give it. So it's just being keen, I suppose, and really follow up on emails. If someone emails you back and says, we might have something in 3 weeks, keep in touch. If anyone ever says to you, keep in touch, do keep in touch, because they do mean it. So eventually something will come up and you'll be in the forefront of their mind. One of our paralegals, we didn't have space for. He applied, I think, beginning of the summer, and we didn't have anything. And I said, please keep in touch, because we would be keen. And he did. He kept every now and then dropping an email. So I kept his email in my inbox. And in September, we had something, and he was the first person I thought of because he had kept in touch and was in the forefront of my mind. So I want to say be annoying. I don't mean that, but do you know what I mean? Keep on top of people. Yeah, and try and show your personality in some way. We had a CV come in with someone's picture on it, which I haven't seen for years.
Yeah.
And I really liked that, because I haven't seen it for about 10 years. And I was like, I like that you've done that, because I feel like I know you a bit more now, rather than just words on a piece of paper.
No, that's wonderful. And it's so inspiring to see the support that you still offer, even if you don't have vacancies, the way you just put people on to this sort of pathway. That's incredible. We need more leaders like you in the industry. So, what would you say, or what do you find the most rewarding aspect about working in this area of law?
It is helping people. Like it can be stressful, because especially with the probate side of things, you do sometimes become a counsellor. You do take on other people's worries. But when you come to the end of something and you've managed to get a grant of probate for someone very quickly, and it's enabled them to get whatever they need to money-wise to continue with paying mortgages and things like that, it does give you that, well, I did that, I managed to help them through that and do that. Wills as well, we always try to help. We had some lovely clients who didn't have much money, and they were selling their like personal possessions in order to afford to do wills, and they came in and we were like, we'll just do it for a very token amount. We'll do all the work. That's no problem. And then one of them sadly passed away. But if they hadn't have had the will, what they wanted would not have happened because of their circumstances. So it was really important to be able to help that person. And it wasn't a money-making exercise. It is the right thing to do to help this person. So you do get, we in this area, we do get nice, like we do get thank you gifts and like flowers and cards dropped in to say thank you, because people are going through sometimes a really horrible time, and we are used to the paperwork day to day, but it's very overwhelming if you are trying to deal with someone's estate and you're grieving and you've just got piles of paperwork. We can just literally take that burden away. And we're not, I wouldn't say we're expensive. We're quite reasonable in our costs, and we're very flexible in that with that client. That's what I like about running my own firm. I can make a decision. I don't have to ask 10 people to get something approved. I just said, we'll do it for 50 quid. That's that. We'll just do it. And we did it. So that's really nice. And then you can see how much it means to people, and you think, I helped them. That makes me feel good that I was able to help that person in a horrible situation. So it's helping people. That's what always people, but it is.
That's really good. So looking ahead, how do you see private client law evolving? I know you mentioned that personality is probably one of the key sort of qualities, but do you think in the future there'll be other essential skills that people should be developing to work in this area?
Yeah, I think with private client, because AI is already coming in, especially with our new case management system, we have it. So it's easy to search through matters for certain information, ask it questions on the law, not that you take it for, like, you don't believe it 100% just yet. But I think with our area of law, because we still see people face to face in person in the office, that won't change. I think people do want to see their lawyer when it comes to things like wills and probate. So it's always going to be, I suppose, the willingness to learn, being organised, being good with people. I don't think that will change with private client. I hope it doesn't anyway.
Hopefully not.
No. Yeah.
So what's next for you and your firm this year? What are you looking forward to achieving?
We've had a really busy couple of years, so I'm hoping it will calm down a little bit. So last year we did a lot of businessy things. So we moved offices, we became an LLP, we changed all our IT, case management systems, everyone got laptops. What else did we do? We went in for loads of awards. We won quite a few awards. We employed 9 people. It was busy. It was very busy. So I'm hoping this year will be slightly calmer in terms of the businessy side and more focused on the teams themselves. So we're trying to grow the property team. That's key at the moment. And we're always building the private client team because it's so busy there. But I'm hoping a calmer year. Not as much change maybe, but still exciting things. We've still got some awards coming up and some things that we're trying to develop to kind of set us apart from other private client teams. But it's crazy hearing that it's so busy. And so it's really trying to find the time to do these innovative things that will set you apart. So I think this year is the year without all that change to really be able to concentrate on making kind of the process that the client goes through more efficient, more slicker. And yeah, I'm trying to be innovative. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be a bit more creative this year, maybe, rather than just head down in the work. I feel this year's the year for being creative.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I hope it all works out fantastic for you. That pretty much brings us to an end of today's episode. Massive thank you to you, Alexandra, for taking your time today and sharing all this useful tips and advice. It's been a real pleasure having you on the Legal Navigator podcast. And we hope all the listeners today have enjoyed the conversation. Be sure to join us next time. But if you want any information or any support, feel free to email us at info@ltckeds.co.uk or visit our website ltckent.co.uk. Take care and thanks for listening.